The Bends, Radiohead's first good album. Released in March 13th of 1995, it is the second studio album by Radiohead and it's considered by fans to be not only one of the best albums of the 90s, but one of the best albums of all time. Which is crazy, because it's not even the best Radiohead album of the 90s. In this video I'm gonna go over every single track in this album, the meanings and the beauty behind them, and I'm gonna talk about what exactly makes this album so good and why everyone loves it so much. This album analysis is gonna be a series that I'm gonna try to continue consistently on this channel, so make sure to subscribe because in the future I will talk not only about Radiohead albums, but also other albums that I think are perfect. I wanted to start this series off with the Bends because I'm really emotionally attached to it, and also it's the first thing that got me into Radiohead. So this is my best shot at explaining what makes me love this album so much, and hopefully I can turn some of you guys into the Bends fans too. Before we get into the nerd stuff, we have to talk about the history of this album, and for this, we have to go back to 1993. Radiohead had just released this pretty underground song. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it. It's called Creep.
I wish I was Jackman.
Now Creep ended up becoming way more popular than the band ever expected, and it launched the band into mainstream almost instantly. The song has 1.5 billion streams on Spotify by now, and it's still the band's biggest song, but there are a couple problems with it. Creep was a massive hit, not only in the UK, but in the US too, and it made possible for Pablo Honey to sell more than 1.5 million copies. The thing is that Pablo Honey was not that good of an album, and it sure wasn't as critically acclaimed as the band's later work. Everyone thought that Radiohead was gonna be a one-hit wonder. The other issue is that Thom Yorke not only didn't like Pablo Honey, but they also fucking hated Creep. And with good reason, because that song sucks ass and Americans love it for some reason. Even though Thom Yorke hated Creep, everyone seemed to love it, and it became the only song that everyone knew from the band. But do you know who loved the song even more than the fans? The label. Creep became one of the biggest songs of 1993, but after a couple of months, it was starting to get played less and less in radio stations. They needed a follow-up hit, so they tried to push the band into making songs similar to Creep, so they could sell more records. Thom Yorke and the crew not only needed to prove themselves critically, but they also needed a follow-up to the giant that Creep was. The band was under a lot of stress, something that you can clearly see affected the album, and they needed to deliver badly. And deliver they did, because the Bends ended up selling more than 2 million copies worldwide, and it got way better critical acclaim than Pablo Honey. They didn't get to reach the same numbers as Creep, but they proved themselves as one of the most important bands of the 90s. The album reached number 4 in UK charts, but didn't do so well in US, how it's often the case with good music. The title of the album is named after an illness, also known as decompression sickness, which occurs when there is a rapid decrease in the air or water pressure surrounding the body, causing serious injury. It describes the immense pressure that the band was feeling after the release of Creep, and how it completely changed the world that surrounded them. The album cover came from when Thom Yorke and Dan Rickwood were filming random objects in a hospital. They tried to film an iron lung because of the song, but they realized that didn't look that great, so they ended up filming a CPR doll, and then taking a picture of that from a TV screen. The TV part was inspired by David Byrne's and Brian Eno's album, A Life in the Bush of Ghosts. This was not the first time that Radiohead got inspired by David Byrne, as they literally took their name from a Talking Heads song. The album's subject, as described by Johnny, are medical subjects.
What sort of subject matters then, can we expect on the Bends?
Medical subjects. Things going wrong with the body.
This is his interpretation.
Yeah, it's my theory of it all. It's just all about kind of hospitals and bodies and bones and illness and iron lungs and stuff like that.
The album was also produced by the incredible John Leckie, who also produced the Stone Roses, with the help of Nigel Godrich and Jim Warren. Nonetheless, as we all know now, the Bends ended up becoming a vital point for the band, and it showed massive improvements both musically and lyrically. Now let's get into the songs. We start off with a great opening song, The Love of My Life, Planet Telex. The original title for this song was meant to be Planet Xerox, but Xerox was copyrighted so they had to change it to Telex. The song came about from experimenting with a drum loop for a version of Killer Cars, which was released on the Just single. This was the start of Radiohead's experimentation with electronic sounds, which would eventually evolve into their fourth studio album, Kid A. To explain this song, I have once again invited my token British person, Greg from the Misclick channel, to read a Thom Yorke interview from 1995.
Did you, or did you not, as the intro to Planet Telex, nick the middle eight from Paul McCartney's Live and Let Die?
What?
You did, didn't you?
No. Let's be very clear about where we nicked this from. We nicked Planet Telex from Tago Mago by Can. So fuck off, we're arty-us.
Oh, 2 Oscars! 2 Oscars! 2 Oscars!
Some people think this is a love song, which is not a bad theory, but the song opens with the words, "You can force it, but it will not come. You can taste it, but it will not form." Planet Telex talks about our planet, Earth, and how humanity built this seemingly looking heaven, but in reality is deeply flawed. The song talks about a feeling that you can't escape. You can crush it, but it's always here. You can crush it, but it's always near. This feeling can very well be love or sorrow after a heartbreak, but looking into Tom's mental state at the time, it was probably about depression and paranoia. Tom talks about how everything is broken. The world and his mental state are far from perfect. He can never escape these feelings, however much he might try, further explaining his feelings of depression. By the end of the song, he's screaming at himself and wondering why he can't just forget and break loose from this madness. Right off the bat, with the album's first song, we can see a huge improvement from Pablo Honey, and it only gets better. The next song is titled The Bends, and guess what? Crazy information here, guys. It's the song that the album was named after. As I said earlier, the bends is a sickness that happens to scuba divers when they get out of the water too fast and the air or water pressure around them changes instantly. Sometimes this sickness can even be fatal. Now this song sets the theme for the whole album and talks about what the band was feeling while recording it. If Planet Telex talks about Tom's mental state, then the band explains the situation he's in and why exactly he's feeling like this. Where do we go from here? It's talking about the band not knowing what to do after this sudden success from Creep. They were never prepared for this. The words are coming out all weird. Where are you now when I need you? Tom's feeling uninspired. He hates the work he did on Pablo Honey, and he knows he needs to make something better. Despite this, he still has no inspiration, and the words aren't coming to him. Alone on an aeroplane, falling asleep in the window plane. The constant touring and concerts are just making everything worse. I need to watch myself again, to hide all the dirt and pain, because I'd be scared that there's nothing underneath. Here he's talking about his lyrics, the communication and connection he has with his fans, and the whole world. He wants to be perfect and hide the dirt and pain that he's feeling. He's afraid that after falling from the peak of the mountain that Creep brought him to, he's just gonna fall into an empty void with nothing underneath. Now this is my interpretation, of course. There's this interview that I can't find right now, so I might just be schizophrenic. In this interview, Tom talks about how in his early years he tried to hide his imperfections, but later realized that these imperfections are what made his fans connect so much with him. They didn't want a perfect Tom, they wanted the real him. And who are my real friends? Have they all got the bends? Am I really sinking this low? Again, the song talks about the band's sudden fame, not knowing who to trust and who their real friends are. In the world of fame, nobody's real, and especially not people in the music industry. Is he really gonna sink this low and become like everyone else who surrounded him after his fame? Is he gonna become what he hates the most and end up a clueless rockstar with no connection to the real people and the real world? The next lyrics further explain these feelings and how Tom just wishes to be happy, but near the end he says, I want to live, breathe, I want to be part of the human race. Maybe the fame isn't actually worth it, but it goes deeper than that. In OK Computer there's a song called Subterranean Homosexuality. The song talks about how Tom feels emotionally detached from the rest of the world. He feels like a spectator, or an alien watching everyone live their lives and feeling like he doesn't belong there. Him talking about wanting to be part of the human race doesn't only talk about his life after Radiohead's fame, but how he has felt his whole life. He desperately wants to be normal, but it just seems impossible. After the bands, we have High and Dry, iCarly's favorite song.
I think Radiohead's great. I love High and Dry. That's my favorite song on this album.
I swear I'm not one of those people who just hate songs just because they're popular, but this song is just alright. It was put there to sell records, and it did its job because it's now the band's fourth biggest song. As I said earlier, the band was being pushed hard by the label to make something that would sell. They were under intense pressure, Godrich would recall, that they had a lot of material, a lot of good songs, and they were being pushed in a certain direction. I think that maybe they didn't want to become this sort of pop band that the label would have them be. People from the label would visit, and it got very uncomfortable. In my opinion, High and Dry is a good enough song, but it just feels kind of uninspired, for obvious reasons. The song was originally written by Tom in the late 80s, while he was still in school. Later in 1993, someone found the demo again and just remixed it and put it on the album. High and Dry was one of the few Radiohead songs that wasn't recorded by the whole band together, but instead each part was recorded separately and then remixed, which probably just adds to the whole uninspired feeling. Johnny said in an interview in 1995 that he felt like High and Dry worked better as a single compared to Fake Plastic Trees.
See, as far as I can remember, the original lyrics were about some loony girl I was going out with, but eventually they got mixed up with ideas about success and failure.
Nonetheless, the song dives in deeper into Tom's world and the success of Creep, and is still an integral part of the album. 2 jumps in a week, I bet you think that's pretty clever, don't you boy? Flying on your motorcycle, watching all the ground beneath you drop. Talks about the success of Creep and the reaction of the people to that song. You'd kill yourself for recognition, kill yourself to never ever stop. This is what he's been wanting his whole life, He would sacrifice everything to be able to pursue his passion about music. You broke another mirror, you're turning into something you are not. After all the success, you realize this is not what you wanted. At least not like this. Tom feels like he's changing who he is just to reach this so wanted fame. Don't leave me high, don't leave me dry. He doesn't want to become this soulless singer who caters to the market. He doesn't want to end up like that. He's talking to his future self and telling him the consequences of going for fame this desperately. In a way, he's both the people who hate him and Tom himself, and both sides are disappointed in the soulless record-selling Tom. It's the best thing you've ever had, the best thing you have had is gone away. After all of this, he's still scared that everything will go wrong, and he'll lose this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Ironically, the lyrics describe exactly what Tom felt about the song itself, and how he had to record this song just so he can get more sales. High and Dry is what Tom himself is insulting of the lyrics of the song. After that, the band promised to not cater to the market or the label anymore, and thankfully so, because from that decision we got both OK Computer and Kid A. Alright, now we're getting to the good stuff. Fake Plastic Trees. I told you I like popular songs. Fake Plastic Trees is one of the more unique songs in the album, and also one of the best songs on it. It sounds less grungy and it's calmer and slower paced. It uses instruments like a violin, a cello, and an organ tune to make the sound way more complex than the rest of the album, almost working like a hint for future albums like OK Computer and In Rainbows. Tom had a really hard time recording the song, and basically got angry at everyone during the recording process, and after lots and lots of tries without any success, him and the band went to see Jeff Buckley live on tour. Tom got really inspired by Jeff's powerful performance, and it gave him the inspiration to sing in falsetto. Something that didn't only influence Fake Plastic Trees, but the whole album. Right after Jeff's show, the band went back to the studio and finally finished the song. In an interview, Johnny Greenwood said, Tom played it in 3 takes, then burst into tears afterwards. The song talks about love in big quotation marks. It doesn't talk about real love, but a rather fake version of it. This version of love is more common than we might think it is, and it's usually more common than true love itself. The song acknowledges this with the very first lines. Her green plastic watering can for a fake Chinese rubber plant is the fake plastic earth. It's so hard to find true and genuine love in this earth when we're all surrounded by fake feelings. Nonetheless, this is the exact world that surrounds our protagonist, that she bought from a rubber man in a town full of rubber bands to get rid of itself. They think they've found love and they try their hardest to cling onto it, without noticing that they're getting rid of their true selves. She's at the most desperate point of her life, and all of this is just wearing her out. She lives with a broken man, a cracked polystyrene man, who just crumbles and burns. This shows us how the girl in the song sees her partner, a fake polystyrene man, a mere copy of the man she once loved. She has no feelings for him anymore, but she still carries this relationship on because she still thinks he might fix it. Even if she doesn't, it's better than being alone again. Then the song starts talking about the man in their relationship. He used to do surgery for girls in the 80s, but gravity always wins. This part talks about plastic surgeries and other methods we use to hide not only our true physical self, but our true emotional self as well. Whatever methods you may use, eventually you'll have to face your true self. You're just stalling the inevitable, aka gravity. The man is also not happy in the relationship, and the pretending only wears him out even more. She looks like the real thing, she tastes like the real thing, my fake plastic love. This is the closest thing he has to love, and he doesn't want to let go of it. In his head, this is close enough. He thinks that these feelings of sadness and desperation will only get worse if he leaves this relationship. But I can't help the feeling. I could blow through the ceiling if I just turn and run. He doesn't want to run, even though he's clearly unhappy. He just wishes he could be the perfect man for her. If I could be who you wanted, all the time. This song is one of Tom's best work lyrically, and it's easily one of the best songs of the album. Genuinely amazing. With this next song, we start talking about Johnny's medical subjects. Bones sends us back to the grunge sound of the band, and it fits the grunge theme pretty well with Tom's lyrics about Prozac and painkillers. The song obviously talks about depression and the effect it has on him. He wants to desperately escape it, but he just can't. I don't want to be crippled and cracked, crawling on all fours. His depression hits him at his core, and it completely changes the way of his life. When you've got to feel it in your bones. His feelings have changed who he is, and he knows this. He doesn't see the world or himself the same anymore, and he's trying his hardest to escape this by using Prozac and painkillers. Now I can't climb the stairs. He can't improve himself, aka climb the stairs of mental stability. The inability to climb the stairs also describes his daily urge to keep going, and how it's fading away every day. I used to fly like Peter Pan. He misses his older self, the days where his mental health was better, and he actually enjoyed life and felt happiness, but now it's too late. His depression has changed everything about his life, and who he is deep inside. The only thing he can do now is think about the old days. After that, we get to another underrated song that I personally like a lot. Nice Dream. It's a simple song, well, simpler than some other songs of the band, and it talks about the people who care about you. In this context, Tom is talking about his fans. To be more exact, the people who started following him after the release of Creep. They love me like I was a brother. They protect me, listen to me. These people would go to hell and back for him. They would follow him everywhere. But not really. That's just a dream, an unachievable reality. He's basically saying to himself, yeah, that's a nice dream, but it's not real. The song doesn't only talk about his fans, but the people who surround him at this point of his life. Do any of these people actually care about him? I call up my friend the Good Angel. She says she'd love to come help, but the sea would electrocute us all. These perfect friends of his, who first seem like angels, aren't there when he needs them the most. They make up some ridiculous excuses just to not show up. How could he be so stupid and actually believe them? This is obviously just a dream, and he's feeding into his illusions. After this, he tells himself to come home, to come back to reality. Actually look at the people who surround him for who they are. Yeah, that was a nice dream, but it's not a real world. This song was written pre-Pablo Honey days, along with High and Dry. And also, the guitar part after he says nice dream is so nice. Talking about nice guitars, we have the next song, a fan favorite among the community. The one and only, Just. The famous music video of this track, along with the amazing guitar and lyrics, have made Just one of the most iconic songs of the band. Now there's a lot of interpretations of the lyrics to the song, along with the music video. I'm gonna try to give my own interpretation and explain what this song makes me feel. Going off the music video and some of the lyrics, this song has a lot of religious themes. The music video follows this man, who after getting baptized, goes and lies on the floor and refuses to get up. A group of people surround him, 12 to be exact, and want to know what he's doing. At the end of the video, he says something to them. The video doesn't subtitle it, but right after that, everyone else lies on the floor. This is not the only time Tom has talked about religion in his songs. In Nude, he says the words, "You'll go to hell for what your dirty mind is thinking." Tom grew up in England, a predominantly Christian country, and he sees religion in an interesting way. In my opinion, the song talks about the Catholic Church and their ideas of life. They try to convert everyone and teach them how to live their lives. Whatever you do, you can't escape them. One day he'll get to you and teach you how to be a holy cow. The church is gonna get to you and teach you what you should and should not do. The lyrics also talk about the mistakes you've made in your life and the guilt you feel from them. Can't get the stink off. It's been hanging around for days. You do it to yourself, you do, and that's what really hurts. This guilt haunts you, and however much you might try, you can never escape it. These mistakes tie back to religion, and how they teach you about how you can never escape your sins, unless you repent to God. Don't get my sympathy, hanging out the 15th floor. You've changed the lock 3 times, I still come reeling through the door. One day I'll get to you, and teach you how to get to purest hell. Christianity, or any religion for that matter, have no sympathy for you unless you're part of their beliefs. They teach you that your sins will chase you and send you to the purest hell. They warned you about this hell, and because you didn't repent, all the bad things that happened in your life are all your fault. You did this to yourself. Yeah, you do it to yourself. Yes, you. These lyrics can also be talking about you taking control of your own life and not listening to religion. Another interpretation is the theme of depression and self-destruction, and how you do it all to yourself, and that's what hurts the most. Probably Tom's best work on the whole album lyric-wise, and the music matches it perfectly. With this next song, we're back to talking about Creep. If other songs were talking about their success and their life after Creep's release, My Iron Lung talks specifically about Creep. Also, the instrumentals of this song were recorded live in the London Astoria in May 1994. Only Tom's voice was re-recorded and put on the song later. The song uses this method that they got from the Pixies, where it builds up tension and then it just explodes. Something that they use in a lot of songs in this album, but it's the clearest here. Now, how is this song about Creep? Well, it talks about an iron lung. A fake lung, which at the end of the day is still a lung that you can't live without it. That's how Tom sees their biggest song, Creep. The band desperately needs it, and it's what kept the band alive. They can't get rid of it. At the same time, Creep is not who they truly are. It's a fake version of Radiohead, created to sell records, and the band absolutely hates it. But they don't have a choice. We're too young to fall asleep, too cynical to speak. We are losing, can't you tell? Creep was released really early in their career, and the band did not have the option of not including it in the album, because they needed the sales. They're too cynical to speak. Still, they make it clear that they absolutely hate it, and they're losing their mind because people keep telling them to play it. How can they not tell this is a fake version of them? An iron lung. This is our new song, just like the last one. Total waste of time. My Iron Lung. It is very clear that this difficult position they were in affected this album a lot. But even though most of the listeners will probably never be in this position, you can still relate and sympathize with Tom, We know how it feels to just get thrown in a completely new life and having no idea what you should or should not do. After Iron Lung, we have one of the more melancholic and darker songs of the album, Bulletproof, I Wish I Was. Right from the title, the song is pretty self-explanatory. It talks about how you feel after a breakup or after you've gotten your heart broken. It goes into detail about the pain he's feeling, limb by limb and tooth by tooth, stirring up inside me, every day, every hour. This pain obviously isn't physical, but it could well be at this point. He just wishes it didn't hurt this much. He wishes he never loved her so much, because it would be easier to get over her. I wish that I was bulletproof. Another song that is big on TikTok is Black Star, the album's 10th song. This is another favorite of mine, and for some reason I always mix it up with Just, even though they barely sound alike. Before we get to the lyrics, I want to show you guys this amazing comment I found while searching for the song.
To all Radiohead fans, next time you listen to that song, please notice how the lyrics, I keep falling over, I keep passing out when I see a face like you, are so full of emotion that when they are heard and noticed, Tom's voice makes everything else fall away. I mean, I love Radiohead, but this The Bend CD is like the one I like the least. But I still listen to the song only for when he sings those two sentences. I consider them to be like a small orgasm. That's what music does to me.
She's so real for that, not gonna lie. Jokes aside, the song gives a different perspective to mental illness. It talks about a guy who's in a relationship with a non-mentally stable girl, and how that's affecting their relationship. I get home from work, and you're still standing in your dressing gown. Well, what am I to do? I know all the things around your head, and then what they do to you. What are we coming to? What are we gonna do? You see the relationship from the perspective of both the girl and the boy. They want to make this work, but it's impossible. And sadly, there's no one to blame for this. You're better off blaming it on the stars and the satellites. At the same time, it might be coming from the girl in this situation. She feels like she's using her depression as a poor and ridiculous excuse. This way of thinking only makes everything worse. The troubled words of a troubled mind, I try to understand what is eating you. I try to stay awake, but it's 58 hours since that I last slept with you. He's trying hard to understand her, but there's nothing he can do. It's been 58 hours since he slept with her, and eventually it's gonna be forever. I get on the train, and I just stand about now that I don't think of you. I keep falling over, I keep passing out when I see a face like you. He's lost her, the relationship is over, and this heartbreak is ruining him completely. He doesn't know what to do or think about when he doesn't have her. Another interpretation of this song is that he lost his girlfriend to drug or alcohol abuse, and how he couldn't stop her unavoidable death. Nonetheless, the lyrics go from "what are we coming to" "what am I coming to." He's alone now, and it's killing him. He'll do anything to get her back, but she's gone forever. An emotional rollercoaster of a song, and it perfectly showcases Tom's wonderful storytelling, and how well he can convey his emotions through his lyrics. After that, we have the song with the least streams on the album, Sulk. Funnily enough, this was meant to be one of the singles at first, but luckily, they changed their mind. The song was written as a response to the Hungerford massacre in 1987. The original lyrics were, "just shoot your gun," but they were later changed after Kurt Cobain's death. Sulk talks about generational depression and the day-to-day fight with it. You bite through the big wall bites back. You sit there and sulk, sit there and bawl. Depression is this big wall that you constantly try to fight, but it's difficult. It sucks all your motivation out of you, and the only thing you can do is just sit there and cry. God rest your soul, when the loving comes and we've already gone. Just like your dad, you'll never change. Even when the chance to find love comes to you, you're not in the right headspace for it, and you can't get it. It's too late, and you're gonna become an emotionless shell of a man, just like your dad. Sometimes you sulk, sometimes you burn. That's all you can do at this point. It looks like the depression has won. You're almost like the captain of a destroyed ship, and the only two options are drowning or burning. It is over. Tom's voice here is pretty different from the other songs on the album, and I think the lyrics are well thought out. It's a shame neither the fans or the band seem to like it. Okay, the final song of the album is Street Spirit Fade Out, and what an ending to the whole thing, oh my god. Street Spirit is our purest song, but I didn't write it. It wrote itself. We were just its messengers. It's a biological catalyst. Its core is a complete mystery to me, and, you know, I wouldn't ever try to write something that hopeless. All of our saddest songs have somewhere in them at least a glimmer of resolve. Street Spirit has no resolve. It is a dark tunnel without a light at the end. It represents all tragic emotion that is so hurtful that the sound of that melody is its only definition. We all have a way of dealing with that song. It's called detachment, especially me. I detached my emotional radar from that song, or I couldn't play it. I'd crack. I'd break down on stage. That's why its lyrics are just a bunch of mini stories or visual images, as opposed to a cohesive explanation of its meaning. I used images set to the music that I thought would convey the emotional entirety of the lyric and music working together. That's what's meant by all these things are meant to swallow whole. I meant the emotional entirety, because I didn't have it in me to articulate the emotion. I'd crack. Our fans are braver than I to let that song penetrate them. Or maybe they don't realize what they're listening to. They don't realize that Street Spirit is about staring the fucking devil right in the eyes, and knowing no matter what the hell you do, he'll get the last laugh. And it's real and true. The devil really will get the last laugh, in all cases without exception. And if I let myself think about that too long, I'd crack. I can't believe we have fans that can deal emotionally with that song. That's why I'm convinced that they don't know what it's about. That's why we play it towards the end of our sets. It drains me and it shakes me, and hurts like hell every time I play it. Looking out at thousands of people cheering and smiling, oblivious to the tragedy of its meaning. Like when you're going to have your dog put down, and it's wagging its tail on the way there. That's what they all look like, and it breaks my heart. I wish that song hadn't picked us as its catalyst, and so I don't claim it. It asks too much. I didn't write that song. Right from the beginning, the song sounds nothing like any other song on the album. That beautiful piano in the intro that starts slowly combining with Tom's voice and the other instrument, it just sounds like it comes from out of this world. The song is about life and death, battling with the devil, while knowing that in the end you're gonna lose. There is no hope. This is the end. And it's fitting that this is the end of the album as well. Tom's fascination with life and death is something beautiful that gets explored even further on in Rainbows. But for this album, there couldn't have been a better way to end it. Anyways, I was gonna talk about the influences of this album at the end of this video, but you know. I think the most important thing that the bands did is put Radiohead on the right path for what they're about to create in the future. It's truly a great album, and sometimes it doesn't get the love it deserves from Radiohead fans. Let me know what you guys think of the album in the comments. I'm going to cover other Radiohead albums in the future, so make sure to subscribe. Also, check out my Patreon because I need money for a camera, bitches.